20,000 photos. I know someone who has that many photos on their phone. But I also know someone who has less than 100. So, can all of you guys please take out your phones and go into your Photos app? And if you don't have your phone on you, just think about it. How many of you guys have at least one photo on your phone? As I suspected, everyone has at least one photo. I myself have over 5,000. But what's the point in taking them when all they do is sit on your phone forever and take up storage? I believe that although photographs can do this, they can also capture wonderful moments that you are able to look back on and appreciate. For example, this past summer, my sister had a friend in town from California who had never seen a Colorado summer sky before. So, my family decided to take her up to the Can Carl sledding hill and watch the sunset. The picture I had taken of her was a beautiful picture and a wonderful memory. It made me realize how much I take for granted, growing up in Colorado and just seeing this every year. It made me realize that I want to be more intentional in admiring and capturing the beauty in God's creation that is so easily overlooked on a day-to-day basis. Genesis 1:31 says, God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. All that God has made is good. Every creature on the ground, every bird in the sky, every fish in the sea, every human that walks the earth, every cow that moves, every zebra that has stripes, you get the idea. However, lots of people take the goodness and the beauty of God's creation for granted. They don't really take the time to bask in his glory and admire his amazing works. When I go outside, I don't only want to see beautiful colors displayed across the sky, but I want to think about the artist behind the painting. Through Capstone, I set out to be more intentional in seeing the beauty of God's creation through a lens. I've learned many things through this process, but the first and most important one of them being that while I enjoy photography and capturing God's beauty, this ultimately is not what I love. At the beginning of the year, as part of our senior retreat, we were dropped off in the wilderness alone for 8 hours with limited resources. I would show you where I was, but we had limited resources. Part of why we do this is to reflect on our lives and be in the presence with God with no distraction, inspired by how Jesus went 40 days and 40 nights alone before he began his public ministry. But we were also encouraged to reflect on the question, what do you love? As that is the main question that drives what Capstone is all about. I struggled with this question for a majority of the time, which was very frustrating because many of my peers knew before or very soon after what they wanted to do their project on. Yet I was still stuck without an idea. Sure, there were things that I loved, like volleyball, my friends, family, Jesus, of course, but I couldn't imagine myself spending 8 months researching one of those things. It was getting closer and closer to the time that our proposal was due on what we might want to do our presentation on. Yet, I still didn't have any idea. It wasn't until one night my family was at our dinner table discussing our day when my mom had asked me something along the lines of, "What do you want to do your capstone on?" I told her that I didn't know, but if she had any ideas, to send them my way. Surprisingly enough, it was actually my sister who came up with the idea for my capstone. She said that I enjoy photography and should do something with that, and that I could relate it back to God's creation in some way. This was by far the best idea that I had heard of or thought of, so I ran with it. I knew this was not what I loved, but I figured I enjoyed it and it was only 8 months, so what was the big deal, right? Well, that was where I went wrong. I shouldn't have settled on a topic. Instead, I should have asked for an extension or even switched at the end of first semester. Although photography is not the thing that I love, I'm so grateful for it because it has taught me perseverance, which in turn has led me to developing photography skills that I've been able to use and help others see God's creation. Uh, Here's a picture I took of a photo looking out at River Thames, the river that flows under the Tower Bridge in London. While taking this, I only saw a cool angle. I hadn't thought much of it. However, looking back, I realized that she was actually looking out at a piece of God's creation. I realized that having perseverance to do something that is not always easy can still be enjoyable if you allow it. So, although many of you, or at least some of you, came to my presentation to hear about how much I love photography, I'm actually going to disappoint you all and instead tell you about a different valuable lesson that I have learned through Capstone, which is that God's creation matters because it is all around us. I remember one day coming home from school, seeing that my sister was about to throw away a dead bouquet of roses as they were looking a little sad and waiting for their new home in the trash can. But before she did, I took them outside to capture a few photos. In order to see and appreciate God's creation, you have to open your eyes to what's around you, which is exactly why I did this. And to my surprise, there was still color in them and life that I hadn't been able to see inside. It was really nice and cool seeing the beautiful contrast between the living and the dead, with the dead outer layers and the top with the bright red shining through on the bottom. Had my sister thrown these away before I'd gotten home from school, I wouldn't have been able to admire this beautiful contrast between the living and the dead. Most would have never acknowledged that a dead-looking bouquet of roses could look beautiful. However, taking a closer look to what's around you can change your perspective on how you see God's creation. Being more intentional in seeing God's creation in everything, you're able to give him more appreciation and for what he has done. Prior to Capstone, I was blind to the fact that God is the artist behind all the beautiful things around us, such as the sunsets we see while driving by on Wadsworth. Many times had I looked out my car window, seeing beautiful colors displayed across the sky, but I hadn't taken the time to appreciate them. Capstone has made me more appreciative of the simple things around me. Now, when I am driving and see such beautiful colors displayed across the sky, I try to stop and thank him for his goodness. Not only have I been more grateful and attentive, but I've also helped others become more attentive to the beauty through developing photo editing skills. One specific skill that I learned was color popping, which is essentially manipulating the eye into focusing in on one certain aspect of a photo. How I did this was by first getting rid of all of the unwanted color. In this case, I wanted the horse's halter to pop, so I went and removed all of the other colors that was not the blue. Then I enhanced it. I really wanted the eye to be drawn to it. But as you can see, the sky was also enhanced. So after that, I did what I like to call masking and removing, which is going over all of the areas that still have color in them and getting rid of it. And lastly, I went back and fixed all of my mistakes. They're not visible up there, but they were definitely there. After doing this, it leaves the eye looking at one thing and not getting distracted by everything else. Here's a video of the process, but I don't think it's going to work, so that's okay. Through this, I learned that color popping is a fun and unique way of bringing out God's creation and whatever. Pictures can bring out landscape God created in more ways than we know if we take the time to reflect on them. And lastly, my last takeaway from this 8-month-long project is that sometimes there are unexpected outcomes. One thing that I had not planned on pursuing at the beginning of Capstone was the idea of helping others admire and appreciate God's creation. However, things changed after the first semester. I realized that I had grown in the way I see God's creation, so for second semester, I wanted to help others begin to see things the way I had. One of the ways I tried doing this was by taking a group of girls up to Red Rocks Amphitheater to watch the sunrise. We had got up bright and early, or dark and early, as it was 5 a.m., and we headed for the amphitheater. If you're familiar with it, you would know that there are two main ways to get there. You can either start from the top and just go straight and climb down, or you can start from the bottom and climb up. Unfortunately, we had to go on a little hike and climb up. But as we climbed higher and higher, we were able to see the city lights displayed in front of bright colors along the horizon. Not only were we able to witness this beautiful sight, but we were also able to see the sunrise and how fast and bright it shines. Going on this experience, we were able to take pictures and experience God's goodness as David had when he wrote Psalms 19:1, saying, "The heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the works of his hands." After we had all gone our separate ways, two of the girls had sent me a text message. One saying, "Seeing how fast the actual sun came up was crazy, and the bright colors were so cool." The other one saying, "Jesus was in the air." When I proposed my idea for what I had wanted to do my capstone on, showing others God's beauty was not in any way part of my plan. However, I learned that I enjoy helping others admire God's creation. But this was not the only way I was able to help someone admire God's divine creation. I was also able to help a classmate see the beauty in themselves. One of my classmates had not planned on taking their senior photos, but knew I was doing photography as part of my capstone, so I volunteered to take them for her, even though they were far from professional. We went to downtown Littleton and Hudson Gardens, and as we were looking back at the photos, we were able to see how the light shines so nicely through certain aspects of the photo. Not only was I able to see the beauty in my classmate at this time, but so was she. And as much as I like to think it was my amazing photography skills and iPhone that showed her this, I know that it wasn't. It was instead showing her a simple photo with little to no edits at all that did. Capstone has made me more appreciative of God's creation, which has allowed me to help others appreciate his creation in multiple ways. Capturing the beauty of God's creation and helping others is something that I've grown to appreciate, but it is not something that I've grown to love. And although I am still on the journey to discovering what it is that I do love, I'm so grateful for this experience because it has given me great memories and photos that I will cherish forever and keep on my phone, of course. Now, here's what I hope to challenge you with, as you guys are all about to walk away from my speech, forgetting a majority of what I just spoke about. Jesus spent 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness alone with God, tempted many times by Satan, but not letting that overcome him. So no, the challenge is not to spend 40 days alone with limited resources with God, but it's to spend an hour or two in God's creation with no phones, siblings, friends, or anything that will distract you from being in the presence of God. Whether that is going on a hike or sitting on your back porch, whatever it may be, I would highly encourage you to take the time and be still in the presence of God, reflecting on the nature and things around you. Then, giving him thanks for what he has done and what he has given you, as his works of art tend to get overlooked. And if this is something that you think you might struggle with, just remember that like the dead roses, there can still be goodness in life that shines through the dark and the dead.